Welcome back in, everybody. It is day 4 of Unicorn Week, and as you can see, we've got a couple good things here. We're going to be talking about George T. Stagg 2019 versus Stagg Jr. Batch 11. Now, this is the Stagg Jr. I had. I've got a couple of them, but I decided to go with Batch 11. I feel like it's probably stronger than the Batch 8 I have, just from things I've heard. So I wanted to compare it head-to-head to George T. Stagg. I just finished my Batch 9 Stagg Jr., so I couldn't compare it to the 2019. That's alright though. I really want to see how big of a difference there is because I've never actually done head-to-head Junior versus George T. Stagg. Should be fun. We've got the 2019 George T. Stagg. Now, this year, George T. Stagg was actually lower proof than what they have been in the past. Came in at 58.45%, 16.9 proof, I believe it is. And that's really low. I mean, it's really low for what... It's not really low. Okay, it's not really low proof in general, but for... you know, most of the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection and for Stagg itself, that's pretty low. You know, there have been some hazmat, like over 70% in the past. And just in general, it's the first time it's dipped below like 120 proof in a while. So, I'm curious to see if that changes the flavor. You know, being this proof, it sometimes can make whiskeys better, sometimes can make them worse. You know, I'm a proof guy, obviously, so we'll see how it changes it. The Stagg Jr. we have today, as I mentioned, Batch 11, this is 127.9 proof, so it is actually amplified in proof a little bit compared to the George T. Stagg. But in the past, you know, the Staggs I have tried, which the 17 and the 18, they were much more just complex than Stagg Jr. You know, wasn't rough around the edges, so I'm curious to see how that compares. Let's go right into the color here first. This is 15 years, 4 months this year on the George T. Stagg. And a good amount of legs for me on this glass. You know, even at the lower, a little bit lower proof, still sticking to the glass pretty well. Still got a pretty dark color. Let's compare it to the Stagg Jr. Virtually identical, looks like to me. I don't know if you can see that, my finger's covering it up. Maybe the Stagg's even just a little bit darker, being even lower proof, so maybe that oak is coming through more, you know? Looks like it to me. Let's go into nose first on the Stagg. Oh, the thing about older Buffalo Trace, when I say older, I mean like the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection, Pappy I tried before, it just smells so well-rounded. Like when you smell it, it just smells rich, creamy. This has got, imagine like a raisinette, you know, a chocolate-covered raisin candy you would buy at the store. That's like in this glass here. Cherry, chocolate, the raisin, dark fruits, plum. And it's just, it still smells creamy. You know, it still smells creamy. There's no alcohol burn. You know, the age, I think the age really mellows out any alcohol or astringency that would be there. It really smells good. It really smells good. Let's go into the Stagg Jr. here. This is the first pour out of my Stagg Jr., but I have let it sit for about 15 minutes. It's much more dull on the nose. Not in general, but I mean compared to the George T. Stagg 2019, it's just dull. It's muted. Which is surprising and crazy because it's higher proof. But even though this is lower proof on the Stagg, it still just jumps out of the glass. You know, it just jumps right out. Stagg Jr. in general is about 8 to 9 years, whereas we got 15, so almost double the age, really. A little bit of astringency coming through on the Stagg Jr. compared to the Stagg. You know, still very, very minor. But you can tell they're related. You know, you can definitely tell they're related, cousins at least. So let's go into a taste of the George T. Stagg first. Cheers, everybody. Happy day 4. Okay. It's good. It is good for sure. Nice creaminess. I actually got a little bit of an astringency and alcohol burn on the center of the palate. But man, the finish is nice. Finish is still going, even for being a little bit lower proof, but everything I described on the nose really does translate to the palate. The cherry note comes through strong for me on this. And the chocolate note too. Cherry, milk chocolate I would say is more what it is. And oak. You know, the oak is coming through on the back of the palate. Thank goodness it's not a drying, astringent oak. Like I said, a little bit of alcohol burn on the center of the palate, but that's it. So, nothing on the back end of the finish. So, let's go into the Stagg Jr. here. Honestly, the Stagg Jr. just tastes a little cheaper. If that makes any sense, like it's got more astringency in general. Same flavor profile, you know, it still tastes like that Buffalo Trace flavor profile. Cherry cola, oak, toasted almond, you know, caramely almond. It just tastes, and I've said this before, Stagg Jr. to me is always a little rougher around the edges compared to the George T. Stagg. And at least in Batch 11's case, I think that holds true. Yeah, I mean, mouthfeel, I prefer the Stagg. Finish, I prefer the Stagg. It is more of a proof kick in the Stagg Jr., but proof is not everything. As I mentioned, just on nose alone, even though the George T. Stagg was lower proof, it really gave me a lot more amplified nose. Yep. You can't rush age. I think that's the biggest moral of this story. Age does something to bourbon. And when I say that, I mean at least barrel-proof bourbon, in my experience. Some more aged stuff that's been watered down to me I have not enjoyed. But barrel-proof bourbon, the age just takes away the rough edges of the sharp parts of the whiskey you don't like. At least for me personally, you know, that's my opinion. It gives a better mouthfeel, more rich, more creamy, more amplified in general. I wish it didn't. Like, I really wish it didn't, because I can actually find Stagg Jr. every once in a while. George T. Stagg is impossible to find, so I really wish I preferred Stagg Jr. But when I get the opportunity to try George T. Stagg like this, it's incredible. Couldn't be more grateful. And it truly is a unicorn whiskey. Probably the most popular of the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. And for good reason. You know, every year George T. Stagg doesn't disappoint. I will say this year's George T. Stagg, compared to the previous two I tried, the 17 and the 18, I don't think this is as good. I don't. Now this is just going by memory, of course. But just from memory alone, I don't believe it was as good as those releases. Could be the proof to me. You know, proof just gives me those even more amplified flavors. Still really good. I mean, still really good whiskey. Still a whiskey I would pay $150 all day for. But retail, it retails at $100. Stagg Jr. retails at about $60, $65, depending on where you can find it. If you can find it, I should say. And same with the George T. Stagg. But if you go into a bar and you see George T. Stagg sitting there, it's worth asking how much it is for an ounce, 2 ounces. You know, because if you can get it at a decent price, and I'll tell you what, a lot of times if you're just at a normal non-whiskey place, a lot of these waiters and waitresses, they may not know how rare something is. You know, if you ask, they see Stagg Jr.'s price, they'll be like, oh, it's that price because it's Stagg, same name, you know, so you might get it at a good price. I've had it happen before. Not for this whiskey, but for different whiskeys that have similar names. So if you can try a pour, it is worth getting a pour. If you can ever find a bottle anywhere near retail, I say pick it up. And as you can see, this is going to probably be my recommendation for everything during Unicorn Week, unless I run into something I do not like, which I doubt is going to happen during Unicorn Week, but we will see. I appreciate all you hanging out today. Thank you for joining me for this head-to-head. Let me know down in the comments below, have you had Stagg Jr.? Have you had George T. Stagg? Have you had Batch 12, which I have heard actually is better than George T. Stagg, the 2019? I am really curious about that. So let me know if you've done that. I'd like to hear your thoughts. I appreciate all of you hanging out today. I will see you tomorrow for day 5 where we have another really, really good whiskey. And it is on my list for best whiskey of 2019. So, it pretty near the top, I'll say that. I appreciate y'all hanging out today. Stay insane, everyone.